Give me 1 second, and I'm gonna go back over there. Lon, good to see you here. I know you're first in today. Okay, sorry about that. I had actually, and Lon, you know what? You must be psychic, because look at this. I got my bones here for my dogs because I got one of them over here and the other one over here. A little bit of a longer walk tonight. I'm a little bit behind schedule, but you know, when it's not raining out, the dogs just love to keep on walking. So that's what we were doing. So we just got back in. We get a chance to text. Okay, all right, we'll do, Lon. After the show, I'll text you. Chris, good to see you there as well. All right, give me 1 second. I do have a couple of things we're going to talk about. And this is some stuff that you guys are going to get a kick out of. While I was walking my dogs, I was actually thinking. That's when I get a lot of my thinking done, when it's nice and quiet. It's just me and the dogs. And, you know, walking around down here at this time is not really many people around, so it's fairly quiet. So I got a lot of thinking that I was doing. But I have a couple of things here, and today's topic is going to be, today we're going to talk about you can't make up some of the stuff that happened in the shop over the years. Now, there's only a couple of things that popped into my head. There's a lot more stuff that actually happened. Some of the stuff I don't think I can talk about on the computer here because it was actually, I'm sure it would probably bother somebody if we talked about it. But so I won't talk about the stuff that's shouldn't be talked about online. All right, but we are going to talk about some stuff. I do have a couple of questions. I have a couple of people that asked me different car-related questions. You know, I'm not even sure why this happens. I just printed this off. I'm looking at it on my documents on my printer, and everybody's name comes up on it. But yet, when I print it off on the computer, there's no names that come up with it. I'm not sure what that's all about. It actually, look at this, it leaves the spot blank where my subscribers' names are actually located. So I won't be mentioning names again tonight. I'm not sure why that's happening. Maybe somebody out there knows why. But when I look on my, hang on 1 second, I'm just going to go back here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to shrink that down on my Google Documents. Maybe somebody knows. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go to it's on my. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm not sure why this happens like this, but it actually shows up on. I'm going to show you exactly. I'm going to tell you exactly what it does. Give me 1 second. Let me open this up. All right, this is in my documents. When I actually have questions, I take them and I post them onto my documents so I can actually print it. Like the first one up here, it's showing that this is blank right here. It's somebody named Steve, and down underneath that, this number 2 is actually oh my is actually their name. The next one is Roberto Rodriguez. I'm not sure, but you can see none of them are showing up. I'm just not sure why. It's actually showing up on my screen here, but not here. So you know what? I'm going to keep my documents open, and that way we'll just read off of that. But I am going to go back so I can see what you guys are talking about here. All right, we got a couple. We have Andy Martin in here tonight. Let's see what we got here. Lon, hello from South Jersey, Gloucester County. It's not far from where I am, where I live, actually. It's not far. We got Chris in here, I see. Andy Martin. You know what, Lon? I'm actually, you know what? I'm going to turn my phone down too because I'm sure I'm going to get some text or something tonight because my buddy Joe's not in here and he better be here tonight. But we'll see. We have Bob T from Virginia. Hope all is well down there. Okay, and Lon, thanks again for my biscuits for my dog. I have one over here now, and I have the other one that can't get no closer to me. She's right here watching what's going on. So, all right, we're going to get right into it now about hi Jim. This is Jim from Chicago. Okay, Florida. Okay, we have people from a lot of different places, but today we're going to talk about the stuff that you can't make up. This is stuff that happened. This is only just a couple of things that I can think of offhand. I was actually, and the way I come up with this idea is somebody sent me an email asking me about that, that portable jumpstart unit that I had. It was actually the one that auto wit. It was actually the one you leave in your trunk of your car and you don't charge it up. Their question to me was, will it be affected by the heat? Being in the trunk of your car and it's 100, 125 degrees, 150 degrees, would it affect the jump start unit itself, which is what I was thinking about when I was walking with my dogs. And then it just popped into my head, something that happened way back a few years ago. And this you'll get a kick out of. This is one of my customers I had for a very, very long time. And he comes into the shop and his car was a couple of blocks away. And he comes in, he says to me, he wanted to buy a battery for his car, that his battery was dead, and he wanted to put the battery in his car himself. I said, I can come down and throw it in for you. And he said, no. He said, I'm going to put it in myself. So I said, okay, no problem. I sold him the battery. He gives me his credit card. We run the credit card through. So it's a cash and carry, no installation. He takes the battery and he walks. I was a gas station I had at the time, was my Exxon station. And this was quite a few years ago. And he goes walking out the office door, and he walks down, and my gas station was probably about 100 feet wide. And as he walks out and he gets to the corner, as he goes to the corner to turn, I see him take the battery and like juggle the battery, and he drops it on the ground, hits the ground, and it breaks. And I see him pick the battery up. He comes walking back into me, and he comes walking back in. He says to me, he says, this battery is leaking. And I look at the corner of it, it's all smashed. I said, yes. I said, it's leaking. I said, I just saw you drop it outside over there. And, you broke the battery. And now he's got battery acid running down all over his clothes because it's leaking all over the place. And then he was mad at me because I wouldn't give him a new battery for free, even though he had dropped it and broke it. I did talk to my distributor later on, but the guy got very, very nasty with me, is that he was PO'd at me that the battery had broken when he dropped it. But luckily, I called up my distributor, who, as you guys know, I use the interstate battery, and I was able to get it from my distributor at pretty much his cost, just to make the guy happy. Instead of giving it to him at list price, I did give it to him at my cost, which was actually the cost. The owner of the company from Interstate had reduced his price to his cost, just to make the guy happy. But it was interesting how he was PO'd at me that I couldn't warranty the battery, even though he had dropped it and broke it. All right, this one here was this was good. I get a phone call from one of my customers. Now, she's not one of my best customers, but she was my customer for a long time, and that's why I was hoping Joe from Joe's Auto Electric was here, because he actually knows this lady very well. Yeah, his clothes really, what happens to acid too, Lons. When you get acid on your clothes, you get acid on your clothes and it burns a little bit and everything, but you throw them in the wash. And when you take those clothes out of the wash, there's not much left of them. They just kind of disintegrate and fall apart. Yeah, these people, it drove me. Granted, to this day, I've been in business now 42 years. To this day, him and his wife are still my customers, and this is going back for probably the middle 70s when it happened. So, they are regulars, and but it was funny how if I didn't see him drop the battery, he would have said that the battery was just a defect or whatever. But this one is why I was wondering if Joe was going to be in here from Joe's Auto Electric, because he knows this person I'm talking about. I had this woman come into me, and I had done a tune-up on her car probably 6-7 years ago, something like that. she comes in and she says to me, "Do you remember me? You remember my car?" And it's like, "Oh yeah." I said, I remember the car and I remember the lady because, she was not a regular, but I used to see her and her family and all that kind of stuff. So she says to me, that tune-up that you did for me, is that still under warranty?" And I said, "Tune-up?" I said, "I don't recall doing a tune-up for you." I'm usually pretty good. If I did a car within recent time, by recent, I mean within like 3-4 years, I'll remember it. I said, are you sure that I did the tune-up for you?" She said, "Oh, no, I'm sure you did the tune-up for me. And, I took it to so-and-so down the street, and they told me the car needs a tune-up." So I said, "Well, let me take a look at my computer and see what, when I did it. Maybe I'm mistaken." I go in the computer and I start looking back, and I go back 1 year, I go back 2 years, I go back 3 years. Finally, I go back 6 years. 6 years earlier, I had done a tune-up for this lady, and she wanted to know if that tune-up was still under warranty. In 6 years, you could put easy 100,000 miles on it, easily. Wyatt, good to see you in here. Hope you're doing well. You just missed a couple of stories, Wyatt, about the some of my customers over the years, and we only missed two of them, but it was interesting how people think. Now I had another one. Oh wait, I guess I had this one guy. This guy comes into my shop, and he's a regular. I had him for my customer for a long time, and the guy he's got a lot of cars. He comes in, and I had this one car that came into me, and there was a problem in the wheel. The tie rod ends were no good, so we had to change the tie rod ends and get the wheel alignment. So we did the tie rod ends, did the alignment on the car. I take the car for a ride. It runs perfect. Now, I didn't do the job. My guy did. But my guy he's really good. He's been with me for a long time, and he doesn't make mistakes on such simple jobs. So the guy takes the car and he leaves. I come into work one day, and the car is parked in my driveway, and the wheel is smashed sideways and flat, and the front of the car is destroyed. Guy calls me up and he says, "You guys almost killed my baby brother." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "My brother was driving the car, and all of a sudden," he said, "the wheel just went flat, and the wheel lost all the air. He lost control of the car, and he wound up, crashing the front end of the car and destroying it." He says to me, "I want you to pay for it." So I said, "Well, let me just take a look at this." I go outside and I take a look at it, and now the car is on the ground. It's not in my shop. I go outside and I look at the rim, and the rim is bent. And I look underneath the vehicle, and sure enough, the tie rod end was snapped off. But where it was snapped off is where it goes in to the knuckle itself. What happened is he hit the curb, and there was a big hole in the back of the tire, about this big in the back of the tire. What happened is when he hit the curb, the tire actually twisted, and when the tire twisted, the tie rod end wound up going right through it. It snapped it off right on the knuckle itself and wound up going right through the back of the tire. I said to the guy, I said, I'm no rocket scientist or anything. I said, but, judging by this tire here, I said, that's not what your brother is telling you, is not the truth of what happened. I said, I'm not, insinuating anything to anybody. I said, but I just want to let you know that it wasn't something that we did that was wrong. Your brother was probably speeding or whatever, and he lost control of the car, hit a curb, and the wheel wound up pushing back into the tie rod end and blowing out the tire. And what happened is, later on, after getting it inside and taking a look at it, what happened is he did hit the curb, but what happened is that if you have a tire that's deflated, like if you hit a curb and you deflate the tire, there's no way you're going to puncture the back of that tire with a tie rod end, because it's rubber and it'll just move unless it was inflated. If it was inflated, then the tie rod end will puncture the tire. But that's what wound up happening. I said to him, let's go back and talk to your brother and just tell him that's impossible, that couldn't happen, and find out what really happened. And then, he was very, very angry at me. You guys almost killed my baby brother and everything. Well, the next day he comes back with his brother, and the two of them are apologizing to me. and my guy, because he was actually very abusive to my guy. As it turns out, his brother did finally admit that he was actually flying with the car. He tried to make a turn, lost control of the car, hit a curb, and wound up blowing out the tire. So he lied to the guy who owned the car to cover his own rear end and tried throwing us under the bus. Which brings me to one I don't even have it written down over here, but it just popped into my head while we were talking. I come to work one day and one of my customers' cars parked in my driveway. So I called them up and I say, what's going on? And they said, oh, my daughter got a flat tire. Can you change the tire and, get it all, fixed up for me? So I said, sure, no problem. I said, I got it inside the shop and take the thing, I jack it up, I change the tire, put a new tire on the car. I get in the car, I drive the car. The car makes a right turn. You let go of the steering wheel, it makes a right turn by itself. I lift the car up on the lift. Now, I did the tire on just a floor jack. I lift it up, I get it inside the thing, and I lift it up on the lift, start taking a look at the bottom of it. I look underneath there. The right side is destroyed. Everything on the right side is bent backwards. The lower control arm, the tie rod end, the strut tower, everything is pushed back and bent. I called him up. I said, so-and-so, I said, what happened with this? He said, I don't know. He says, my daughter was driving. They got a flat tire. So I said, well, you're looking at thousands of dollars of damage here because not only is the tire flat, the rim is no good, the strut is no good, the knuckle is bent, the subframe is bent backwards. I said, you got some major damage there. You're looking at thousands of dollars to fix this thing. And he says to me, well, that's impossible. He says, she got a flat tire. She was traveling at 2 miles an hour. That's impossible. That could have happened. So I said, well, I'm just telling you what I see. So I said, let me have your daughter's phone number. Let me call her up. I call her up and I said, listen, this is what's going on. I said, can you let me know what happened? She said, well, I got a flat tire and I was going like 2 or 3 miles an hour. I pulled over and I didn't have a tire, so I had them tow it to your shop. So I said to her, listen, I said, this is a lot of damage underneath there. I said, you really, that's not the truth. What really happened? She said, well, if you promise not to tell my father, I'll tell you what happened. So I said, what happened is between you and your father. I said, I'm just looking at this now and I'm just trying to give some kind of an estimate to your father or how much this is going to be because, he's going to have to pay out of pocket for it because you don't have full coverage on it. As it turns out, she says she was driving, heading to the turnpike, and she was flying and heading to the turnpike. And as she was going up to the booth, she misjudged the booth and she hit the cement curbing while she was trying to go through the thing, the easy pass thing. And as she hit the curb, that's what blew out the tire and bent the whole subframe and pushed it back. So I said, well, that makes sense because, that's how you got all the damage in there. But she said, you're not going to tell my father, are you? I said, listen, what you and your father talk about is between you and your father. I said, I'm just telling you, your dad, what's got to be changed on here. And we did wound up fixing the car. Just, I don't know if she ever told him, but she did wound up getting the car repaired. All right, let's see what we got going on here. I got a couple other stories here I want to tell you about too. Did the guy get acid burns? Yeah, you do. His clothes just wound up falling apart. But I'm going to tell you that the guy's he's a little bit of a bird because another time him and his wife come in to me and I'm working on a car and he says to me, can I use your bathroom? So I said, sure. I said, it's right there. And I'm standing there talking to his wife in the front office and the bathroom was right there. Goes in the bathroom, I'm talking to his wife. He comes walking out and he's holding his hat and it's dripping wet. I said to him, what happened? He said, I dropped my hat in the toilet. I said, well, throw it away. And he said, no. He says, I'm going to take it home and wash it. Do you have a bag so I can put it in the bag? That just could show you what kind of a bird the guy was. But he's a harmless guy. He's a good guy. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. Slipping from training this week. Chris and Lon, Bluetooth Hotel. Stanley, I thought I was running out of ink too, but you know what? It's actually, you know what? Hang on one second. Stanley, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is probably because I have the three ink the ink cartridge. Most of the time, I print everything in black and white, but the names are actually in blue. That's probably why it's not printing. I probably have the colored cartridge is probably low on the blue ink. Wow, very good, Stanley. Thank you very much for the help. You're right. That's definitely what it's going to be because it actually the names are highlighted in blue. Okay. Wyatt, I am going to watch your video too. I did see it popped up on my phone, the video about Autel. I am going to watch that later on. Um, yeah, why it's not often that they apologize. Most of the time, it's usually they swear up and down and blame us for everything. Okay, I got a couple of more stories for you too, Lon. I got actually I got four more stories for you, and then we're going to talk about some car-related problems that people have. Are you going to have any trivia questions? Super Jones 70Xs. I ran out of the car questions, but I will do a little bit of research as soon as I get caught up. Everybody knows I have some issues going on right now with the death in my family. So as soon as I have a little bit of time, I will do a little research and I will come up with some more car related questions. I will call my friend actually who sent me the car questions and see if they can come up with some questions for me too. It'll be old news for you. Yeah, I do like the Autel. Why the Autel is really pretty neat. I just got one a couple of weeks ago that Autel sent me. Was another diagnostic scanner too. But the Autel one that I like the best is the one for the rear parking brakes. You know how you have the electronic parking brakes on a car. My Autel is the go-to for that, to retract the parking brake lever, which is actually electronic, and then it's also to apply, pressure after you do the job. But I do love my Autel stuff. It's really pretty neat. Come to Jim for a lifetime guarantee. You're right, Bob. I couldn't believe it. 6 years down the road, and she expected me to warranty it for her. But I will tell you this: she wound up having the other guy do whatever it was, and that's why I was hoping Joe would be in here because he'd get a kick out of this because he knows this lady very well. But I see he's not in here yet. Maybe he'll be in a little later. You know what? Let me text him real quick. Nah, you know what? He's probably busy. Last week he texted me that he was going to be here, but he just got jammed up. And you know what? If you have family stuff to do, that's more important than sitting here listening to me, to me talking. What's going on here? Hey Joe, good to see you there. Hope you're doing okay. My Mercedes does the car wash a little break. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, this is going to be. I don't know why my computer's a little frozen here too. What's going on there? For some reason. Okay. This one here is another story that happened to me. You guys know that I do windshield repairs, windshield chip repairs. And what a chip repair is basically when you get a rock that hits a window and it puts like a little bit of it looks like a bullseye inside the window. I can repair all of those bullseyes. And I always tell everybody, if you could fit a quarter over the top of that fracture, I can fix it. So I had this one customer, never met him before, and he calls me up and he's a little bit broken English. Not that I'm saying anything, it's just difficult to understand him. But I said, can you put a quarter over the top of it and cover the hole? So he says, yeah, I can. I said, there's no cracks in the window at all? He said, no. He says, just the little star in there. I said, no problem. I can take care of it. So he comes down, he brings the car to me and he parks it outside. He parks the car outside and I get his name and everything and I write it down. I said, I'll give you a call when it's finished. So a little while goes by and I had time. So I said, let me bring it inside and I'll get it out of the sunlight. So at least the window, it was this summer, it was very hot. So I said, let me get the car inside. And when you're doing a windshield repair, you can't have the car sitting in the sun and cooking because that window gets too hot. And if you put the resin into it, the resin flows like water too quick inside there. It's not good. So I figured, let me get the car inside. I'll leave it sit for a little bit until I'm ready to do it. I go outside and go to get my car, and there's a crack in the window. Got to be at least 2 feet long. So I was like, no big deal. I called the guy up and I said, listen, I said, this crack in this window is too big. I said, I can't fix a crack. I can fix a rock chip, but I can't fix a crack. He says to me, well, you must have broke it. I said, buddy, I said, don't even play that game. I said, and I know that window was broken like that before it even came to me. I said, I never even moved your car. The car is still in the same parking space that you parked it in. He comes down and he gets really pretty nasty about it. And so I said, you know what, I'm not even going to discuss this with you. So I called up down to the police station. I had them come down and I had them remove him from my property and gave the cop a hard time too. We gave him so much of a hard time that the policeman said to him, listen, if you don't move the car, I'm going to have to ticket you for parking in a driveway. And, so that's the only time that the guy left. But it was somebody who had come in knowing full well that a crack in the window is non-repairable. And when it cracks like that, he knew couldn't fix it. And he was trying to get over on me by saying that we broke the window. Except little did he know, my guys don't do the crack in the window. Only I do the windshield repairs. So I knew that he was BSing me. That was one. This one you get a kick out of too. I had this one lady come into me, brings the car in. That's going back years ago. I still was in the Exxon station at the time, so it's got to be 20 years ago. She comes in and, I get the car inside and I get the car on the lift and need the brakes. I call her up. I said, the brakes on this thing are destroyed. I said, the brakes are all burned out. I said, you need rotors, you need calipers. I said, everything has got to be changed. So she says, well, go ahead and do it. So I go and I changed the calipers, I changed the brakes, I changed everything that had to be changed on the car. Take the car for a test drive. It runs absolutely perfect. I get the car and I bring it back, give it back to her. She picks it up. Maybe about a week later, she comes back in and she says, something's wrong with my brakes. It smells and it's making a grinding noise. So I get the car inside, I pull it apart, and no word of lies, she's telling the truth. The brakes were destroyed. They were grinding right down into the rotor again. It's like, well, how can that possibly be? The combination valve was working properly, the hoses were good, the calipers were brand new. It's impossible. So I said, well, no problem. We'll take care of it. So I wound up doing the brake job, did it for free, give the car back to her, and it's absolutely perfect. I took the car for a long drive to make sure it was good. Perfect. Give her the car back. A week, 2 weeks later, she comes back in. She says to me, those brakes, there's something wrong with them again. So I get in the car, I drive it, and sure enough, she's not lying. They're grinding like crazy. So I said, what the heck is going on? So I get the car back inside. I look it all over. I said, I said to the lady, I said, you know what? Let's take a ride. I said, I would just want to see what it sounds like. I said, you know what? Let's take a ride. We walk outside, and we're walking out to the car. I says to her, you know what? Handed the keys. I said, you know what? Here's the keys. I said, you drive. I'm going to sit in the passenger seat. She's okay. She gets in the car. We start the car up. Buckle our seatbelts, I might add. Get in the car. We drive down the road. We come up to the red light. She's got a foot on the brake pedal and a foot on the gas pedal. And as she's pulling up to the stoplight, she's got her foot on the accelerator. So we're still going. And she's braking the car as we're coming up to. We pull up to the stoplight, and you can hear the engine running at probably 1,500, 2,000 RPMs while we're stopped at the light. And she's holding her foot on the brake. I says to her, so-and-so, I said, that's why your brakes are no good, because you're driving with 2 feet. You're holding the accelerator and you're stepping on the brake at the same time. You take your foot off the brake pedal and you think your foot's off the brake. It's not. You still have your foot applied on there and you still wind up destroying it. So I said, at that point, I said, I'm done. I'm not doing another brake job for you for free. I said, your brakes have been destroyed because you're driving with 2 feet. You can't drive a car with 2 feet, even though I know a lot of people out there that actually do it. Okay. What else we got going on? Oh, this one you get a kick out of too. All right. This one, I got a guy comes in. Now, I sell tires. most shops sell tires. And when you sell tires, tires don't have, they have a manufacturer warranty against defects. But if you want to buy a road hazard warranty, road hazard meaning that if you get a sidewall puncture in the tire, that they'll measure the thread depth, and whatever the remaining thread depth is, they'll give you a credit towards the tire. Oh, my buddy McGee 63, you're sneaking in there. I didn't even see you in here before, or you're hiding in the background someplace. Good to see you. I hope all is well with you. So what happens is the person comes in and he says to me, okay, I got one more after this. And they come in and it's like, this is the price of the tires, this is the valve, this is the disposal. If you want the road hazard, this is what the road hazard is. And I explained to them, there's the road hazard covers non-repairable punctures, meaning if you get a sidewall puncture or you get a very large puncture and then it's non-repairable, what they do is they'll measure the thread of the tire, and what's remaining you get credited for towards the replacement of a new tire. So I give him a price on how much it's going to be, and he says, I don't want to get the road hazard warranty. I want to just buy the tires. So I was like, okay, no problem. I said, that's fine. Most people, I might add, don't buy the warranty. And I never push the warranty because the warranty is not cheap. It's expensive. Usually the way it works is a warranty. If you buy 4 tires, usually the warranty on the tires is usually going to be the cost or the equivalent to buying 1 extra tire. So I never push everybody to do that, including myself. I never buy a road hazard warranty. I just take the gamble because you're paying for that 5th tire anyway. So he says, no, he doesn't want to do it. So I said, oh, no problem. He leaves in a week, 2 weeks or whatever. He comes back and he says, I got a flat tire. So I get the car in, I take a look at it. Sure enough, he got a flat tire. He's got a nail stuck in the sidewall of the tire. So I said to him, listen, I said that road hazard, the tire is no good. It's got a puncture in the side of it. If you had the road hazard, would have been able to warranty it. So he says, can I buy the road hazard now? And it's like, no, you have to buy the road hazard at the time of purchase, not when you get the flat tire and then you want to buy the warranty. I said, it doesn't work like that. Okay, this one you get a kick out of too. What else we got going on in here? See, no power at all. I see Wyatt is trying to help somebody out. Yeah, you saw that, Chris. He tried to sneak in there. All right. Okay, a couple of things going on, so we're going to let that go right there. Okay, this one you got a kick out of too. This one, I got a guy comes into my shop, and he says to me, I need to have my car checked out to find out it's making a grinding noise. So I get the car inside, get it on the lift, I pull all 4 wheels off, take a look at it, and sure enough, the brakes are wiped out. And what happened is one caliper was frozen up. When one caliper froze up, it destroyed the brakes on the one side. It destroyed them. So I said, you need to do the front brakes on there. We got to do, left and right side. And they said, well, why do you have to do the left and right side? It's only the one side that's grinding. And I said, no, if you're doing a brake job, you have to do the left and right. You can't just do one wheel at a time. But he didn't get it. And he wound up leaving and going someplace else to get that brake job done. So there's no such thing as a one-wheel brake job. Even though I know somebody who was a so-called mechanic who used to do something like that, but we won't even get into that. Okay, now we're going to take a couple of questions here. All right. This one, I'm actually, like I said, the names didn't come out here, but it was pointed out to me that my printer could just be low on the blue ink, which is most likely what it is. So this is Steve says to me, he sends me an email and he says, how do you remove the oil pan bolt that just turns and turns and won't come out? What he means, the oil pan, this was actually a video that I did, how to remove a stripped oil drain plug. So what he means actually is the is the oil drain plug is just spinning and it won't come out. And I see this all the time, and it's sometimes you can get them out, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you'll need to improvise a little bit to get these to come out. But what happens, especially on Hondas, I see this, that the oil plug is actually strips out. What happens is, the oil plug is about that. It's about maybe half inch to 3/4 of an inch in length. Well, what happens is when you screw it into the oil pan itself where it drains out, as you screw it in and you over tighten it, it pulls out some threads. So what happens is the threads on the end of the bolt are still good. The middle threads are actually destroyed and there's no threads on there. That's why it's just spinning and won't come out. Unfortunately, the only way to get that plug out of there is two ways. One, you can change the oil pan itself, or what I can usually get them out is you can get a small screwdriver or pry bar, and what you'll need to do is get onto that bolt. Most of the time it's a 17 millimeter. You'll try to back that bolt out, and as you're turning it, you want to get underneath where the bolt touches into the oil pan. There's going to be a little, like a very thin, it's a Honda most likely, so it's probably going to be an aluminum drain plug, or it may even be plastic, I'm not really sure, but you want to get behind the oil plug itself and the oil pan. You want to try to put a screwdriver inside there, not to pry it out, but you want to hold slight pressure on that plug, pulling it backwards while you're turning it with a wrench. What's basically happening is you're pushing the plug back and out, and that stripped out area, you're hoping that the threads can actually catch. So get in there with a screwdriver between the oil pan and the oil bolt itself and pry it out very, very slightly while you're turning it in a counterclockwise position, and you should be able to get the bolt out. I know it's going to be a pain in the rear end, but if you're just persistent, you may need to use a very, very thin screwdriver at first to put it in there just to get it to start to move a little bit, and then get in there with a little bit thicker screwdriver, and you should be able to start to pull the plug back. And what you're really doing is you're pulling the plug back. That stripped out area is where it's rotating. You're just trying to get the threads that are sticking through into the oil pan, just trying to get those threads to pull back into that bolt so you can unscrew it out of there. So hopefully that helps you out. It is a pain in the rear end, I know it, but I've done them many, many times already, and you usually can get them to come out. All right, I'm going to go back over here because I can't see the name of the next person. The next person is Oh My, My. That's their YouTube name, and they say, let me go back here so I can see what's going on. When I first bought my Chevy Tahoe from the dealer, it had rims, and I asked to take the big rims off. Do you think that is why the TPMS is still on? It won't even let me put a number in for the passenger or both left and right. Unfortunately, I think the problem you're having is most likely the dealership, when they took the rims off, they probably maybe there was no sensors on those rims. I do see this all the time when people switch over from the standard rims. They'll switch over to the big, the larger, wider rims. A lot of times they'll throw those sensors out and they won't switch them over. So what I would say to do first is you want to first off make sure that there's sensors in the wheel. If you don't have a sensor in the wheel, and the only way you're going to be able to tell for sure if there's a sensor there is you're going to have somebody with the tire pressure tool to actually go up to the side of the tire. And I think if you go to some of the big box stores, the tire distributors and stuff like that, they may be able to just take their machine and put it up against the side. What you want to have them do is you want to check to see if the tire pressure sensor is showing a frequency or if it's actually even in there. My gut tells me that if those tires or rims were changed, most likely it does not have the sensors on it. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go and get for if the sensors are not in there. You're going to need to go and get 4 new sensors for that vehicle. The good thing is, I think it was a Tahoe, I think you said. Okay, yeah, the good thing about that is it's a Tahoe, and the Tahoe, you can actually teach the computer in the vehicle to recognize the new sensor without taking it into a tire store to have them actually program each one of them and charge you the $100 to program the sensors. Those sensors, once they're in there, in the wheels, you can actually, just like on my video where I showed you, you inflate all of the, once you put the new sensors in there now, you inflate all of the tires to bring it up to like the maximum, which is like probably 35 or 36. Bring it up to say 36 pounds of pressure all the way around. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your remote and you're going to have A and B. You press A and B at the same time and you hold A and B at the same time, and you're going to hear your horn underneath the hood. It's going to chirp. I think it does 2 chirps, like a beep beep. So that tells you now that the computer in the vehicle is in the learn position. You go up to the left front wheel and you start lowering the tire pressure down. As you're reducing the tire pressure down, it's going to come to a point where you're going to hear the horn go beep, 1 beep at the horn. That tire now is recognized by the computer. You go to the right front tire and you do the exact same thing. You press the Schrader valve in and you lower the tire pressure down, and you bring the tire pressure down until that tire beeps as well. And then you just, now the computer is recognizing, once you get that beep from that, that means the computer recognizes that sensor. And then you do the right rear and the left rear. And each one of them, when it beeps, that means the computer is recognizing each one of the sensors. And now when you do your left rear tire, the 4th one, as you get the tire pressure down to that certain point and the computer picks up the change in pressure, your horn is not just going to beep that one time, it's going to beep twice. It's going to give you 2 little chirps of the horn, like beep, beep. And that tells you that all 4 of the tire pressure sensors are now recognized by the computer in the car, truck. And now what you want to do is shut the truck off, pull the key out of the ignition, go outside and inflate all of the tires back up to where it's supposed to be, whatever the maximum pressure is. If you look on the door frame, it'll tell you what the maximum pressure is. That may be 35 pounds of pressure. So you inflate all the tires back to 35 pounds of pressure. Once you have it set at 35, you put the key in the ignition, start it up, and at that point, your light for the tire pressure monitoring system should turn off because all of the sensors are now being recognized by the computer in the truck. If it's not being recognized and that light is still lit, take the truck and take it for a drive, maybe a mile, something like that. And then with the tires rotating, it'll actually send a signal back to the computer of the vehicle that all the tires are inflated. And at that point, you should see the light turn off, and then your tires will be 100%. But the first thing you have to do, though, is make sure that you got tire pressure sensors in there, because my gut tells me that when they switched over the rims, they probably didn't change these sensors at that time. So most likely the sensors are not there. All right, keep me posted. Let me know what happens. I'm curious about this one to see what it actually is. Okay, and this is one of my subscribers named Roberto Says. I have to see it over here. And then I got to click back here so I can see what's going on. There's lots of talking going on over here. My dogs are going to start barking like crazy, just so you know, because I hear my garage door opening back up. Actually, they're both sound asleep. They didn't hear the door open up yet, but they will any second now. So rest assured they hear Mrs. Jimthecarguy coming back home. Okay, this one here is from one of my subscribers. He says, I replaced the engine in my 2003 Ford Explorer 4.0 with a remanufactured directly from Ford. My question is, does changing the engine throw the vehicle computer off? It did start the day the new engine was installed, but can't get it to start again. Thank you for any ideas and help. I will tell you this. Most of the time when you buy an engine, you're buying an engine and you're not getting a lot of the sensors in there. I'm sure that when the the new engine was replaced, whoever put the engine in had to switch over the sensors from the old engine into the new engine. Does the computer have to be reset? No, because chances are the battery was disconnected when they did the engine swap anyway. So I'm sure that the engine is actually reset itself, and it shouldn't be a problem. Most likely, what you're going to find is that something is. You're going to have to do basic diagnostics on it, because if the engine did start and run, you're going to need to find out why now it's not running. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to do your basics. You want to know if you have spark, you want to know if you have fuel pressure, and you want to know if you have injection pulse, and you want to know if you have compression. Chances are it's a Ford engine. I don't think you're going to have to worry about compression. It should not be an issue, but you are going to need to check to see spark, most important. The next thing you're going to need to know is you're going to need to know fuel pressure, because if you don't have any fuel pressure, your engine is obviously not going to start. And the third thing you need to find out too is injection pulse, because if you have no injection pulse, even though your fuel pump is pumping fuel, you don't have pressure. You do have pressure to the injectors, but the injector is not opening. And if the injector is not opening, it's not pumping fuel into the engine. So you want to check those three things first. You want to check spark, you want to check fuel pressure, and you want to check injection pulse. One of those three is going to be missing. My gut tells me it's probably going to be something that was unplugged and not plugged back in properly. If it was running before, and it's a Ford engine, not saying that all engines are okay, but it could be possibly something with that Ford. 1 second. Okay, Wyatt's going to head out of here. Wyatt, good to see you in here. I hope all is good, and we'll talk soon. So I got a feeling it's probably going to be something where one of the plugs are not plugged in properly on the computer or on the wiring harness, or sometimes when the wiring harness is pushed back together, as you put the wiring harness and you put the other part and you push them together and you screw the screws in to tighten it down. Sometimes what will happen is instead of the male portion and the female portion pushing together and locking in place, what happens sometimes, the pin that's supposed to slide into the other piece, it'll hit it, and it'll actually, when it pushes together, it actually push the pin back out, and it doesn't actually make contact. It may momentarily touch it, but then from just moving the vehicle or driving the vehicle, it may just work its way back out. So if it was me doing the job, I would go and I would check first all of the pins that you had plugged together or were plugged back together, all of the harnesses where they plug together, to make sure there's a good connection in there, because obviously something is not going to be plugged in properly, and that's what's causing it not to run. Wow, I can't believe it. They didn't even stop parking. Yeah. I just happen to have this for them right here. My buddy Lon, he sent me $10 for dog biscuits.
Where was he when we had college bills?
Yeah. Hey, Lon, my wife wants to know, where were you when we had college bills? All right, so that's all set. Okay, what do we got going on next? That's that. Okay, let me go back over here to see my next. Okay, this is one of my subscribers. His name is James. I'm not going to say his last name, but his name is James. And no, it's not me. 2007 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and this was rear disc brakes. And he asks, what is the tool that you use to push the piston in? Can't find one like that. I need it. I need it in my life. Okay. I will tell you this, though, James, that tool, believe it or not, is probably that tool, I'm just thinking I bought that, I was still a kid. I'll bet you that tool has got to be probably every bit of 35, 40, no, got to be over 40 years old. I bought that tool when I was working for another guy when I was a kid. So that's 42 years, and I bet you that's 40 something years ago. And that tool is actually made by Snap-on. I like that tool better than any other tool, but that particular tool, it may be hard for you to find it. I don't even know if they make that tool any longer. You could probably do a little bit of research, just go on to, of course, Amazon or eBay or whatever, and just type in there brake tools, and you may still find it in there. If you can't find it, you need to know a part number. Send me an email. I'll look it up and give you the part number of it. It works really well. But I will tell you this, there is lots of other tools out there that you can use. That one is just the one that I like best. They actually have them in the big box stores. You can buy a tool. That's the same thing. It looks like a caulking gun handle where you just squeeze the trigger, and there's a little piston inside there that pushes out and recesses the piston back in the bore. There is a lot of different ones out there. And like I said, if you're not sure about it, send me an email. And I'll up a picture of what you're interested in, and I'll see if it'll work for you. I have a feeling that you're going to see quite a few of them out there. I know that the big box stores have them because one of my guys broke his, and I know he had it sent up from a store, and they do have them. So check it out. If you're not sure, send me a link to it. I'll take a look at it, and I'll tell you if it's good or no good. All right, what do we got going on? We're going to go back over here a little bit later on, but I want to get through a couple of more things here, and then we're going to talk about some of the chat going on over here. I see a bunch of people in here. A lot of my friends are in here now too. I still don't see Joe. Shame on him. What brake flare tool do you use in the shop? The one I use is actually made by OTC, believe it or not. Actually, I have 2 or 3 kits. I think I have 2 kits, 2 complete kits, and one that's actually broken. But it's made by OTC, and the other one I think is KD, if I'm not mistaken. So there is 2 different ones that I use, but they are good. And flare on the brake line is really not as hard as you would think. It is fairly easy. So I do have a video out there how to flare a brake line. So if you just follow that, you shouldn't have any problem with it. But those are the 2 that I use. I would not buy a Snap-on because it's just going to be a lot of money. Okay, this one is another one of my subscribers, and his name is Jabber. I'm not going to say his last name, but that's my subscriber's first name, and it says it's a Nissan Maxima vehicle speed sensor. I have a Nissan. I'm not even sure of the name of this. It must be from a different country. QASHQAI 2010 automatic. Shows a code P0720. The problem is the car starts, but does not drive or even go back. I hate to tell you this, but I know you're not going to want to hear it, but the vehicle speed sensor is not going to cause that to happen. Most likely something blew inside the transmission itself or something broke inside the transmission itself. If you don't have any movement forward or backward, there's only a couple things that can happen to cause that. Check your brake fluid. I have brakes on my mind. Check your transmission fluid level. If your transmission fluid level is full and it's right up to where it's supposed to be, then chances are something broke in the transmission. The next thing you want to do is take that dipstick out with the fluid on it, pull the dipstick out and just smell the transmission fluid. Transmission fluid should have like an oily type smell. If that transmission fluid smells burnt or it looks brown, then chances are something broke inside that transmission and is causing it not to move. I know it's not what you want to hear, but chances are that transmission is blown and it's going to need to be replaced. All right, this is my 6th and final question, and then we're going to go back and we're going to look at some of that chat going on over there, and we're going to see what's going on. Okay, this one, TransUnit Dispatch, that's the actual username. And they ask, let me just go back over here so I can see what's going on. And they say, I replaced the front brakes and rotors on my 1996 Jeep Cherokee. Before putting on the wheels, we checked everything and everything was working. Put front wheels on, started the Jeep, put it in reverse, and have no brakes. Can someone give me some advice? Yeah. If you have no brakes at all and the brakes are all the way down to the floor, you're going to have a couple things. Either you change the brakes and everything went back together okay, and you'll need to pump that brake pedal 3 or 4 times to get that piston that you pushed back in. You need to get that piston back out so that piston can hit into the back of that brake pad that you just put on. The piston is back here right now. When you step on the brake pedal, this is your brake pad. This is your caliper with the piston. You push that piston back in. This caliper the piston has got to travel each time it moves a little bit until it comes in contact with that brake pad. So what's happening is that when you apply the brake, it moves out a little bit. Then you let it up and you step again, and moves out a little bit more. And usually on the 3rd or 4th time, you'll pump that brake and that piston will push all the way out until it touches into the back of that brake pad, and it'll squeeze the brake pad into the rotor. If after 3 or 4 pumps of the brake pedal, the pedal doesn't come back up to the top, then I would definitely take a look underneath there and check for a hydraulic leak, because you may be leaking some battery. I don't know what's on my mind today. Battery, transmission fluid. If it's leaking, you may be leaking some brake fluid from one of the hoses. I don't know if you changed the caliper and maybe it's leaking from one of those little washers. If the bolt on the back is not tight, you'll be leaking fluid. So you want to, after you look underneath there, you want to make sure that you're not leaking fluid someplace. If the piston pushes out and your problem is solved, then you're good. But if you look underneath there and you see fluid dripping out, which I see happen all the time, people will change their own calipers and tighten up the brake line where it goes into the back of the caliper. But when they tighten it up, the washer may have fallen off, or they used an old washer. And if that happens, the washer falls off, you're going to lose fluid. You may not lose fluid when the car is off and you're stepping on the brake, but when you start the car and your power booster kicks in, that's when you'll start to get that fluid leaking out through that washer that may not have been changed. Hey, I see Mike is in here. You know, Mike, you know what I got waiting in the refrigerator right over here for me? It's not Yingling either. It's not Yingling. I actually have some Samuel Adams. I guess I can say online. I got some Samuel Adams Oktoberfest beer in there, and I know you would love that. But I got that sitting right in there. My son and my daughter-in-law gave that to me last night, so it's in there just waiting for me to get off over here. What time we got here? Let's see. Yep, it's Oktoberfest time. I see it's 8:02, so we're just about done. Okay, so I think that's just about all the questions we're going to have time for tonight. I hope I was able to help you out. Anybody who I answered your questions, just keep me posted. Let me know if anything can, if you need any further advice on it. And as always, I hope that I helped you out. And also, I do appreciate everybody stopping by and everybody giving their input over on the side over here, and we get to talk a little bit and catch up with everything. But if you bear with me 1 second, I'm just going to scroll back and I'm going to see what was going on that maybe I might have missed. Got a lot of stuff going on here. Okay, McGee, Bob T, disgruntled, Mike. Knew it would be Sam. Yep, you knew it. You knew it. Oktoberfest. That's right. Okay. Heineken is my beer. You know, Heineken's okay. It's really not bad, but I do like my Samuel Adams Oktoberfest beer. You know what other beer is pretty decent too? And Mike, you probably know this too. It's a German beer, Spaten or something like that. That's pretty good too. That's a pretty good beer too. All right, so I'm going to look through some of this stuff here. and see what everybody was talking about while I was BSing about all the other stuff that went on back in the olden days. But we'll come back and we'll look through this, and if anybody had anything in here that was pressing, we'll talk about it next week when I'm back next week. But thank you for spending your Sunday evening here with me, everybody. I see a lot of my loyal subscribers and friends in here as well. But thanks for spending your time here with me. Now I'm going to go crack open my Oktoberfest, and we're going to call it a night. All right, as always, thanks for watching. And I might add here, you see this picture here? You see this picture's crooked? This is because last week, one of my friends said to me, that picture's crooked. So what did I do? I actually made it a little more crooked, so that way they could see that I pay attention to what they say. But I will fix it, though. That was my friend Marie. But I will fix it just for her. All right. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next Sunday, same time, same place. All right. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and we'll talk again soon. Bye now.